Well, everybody, it has been a little while since Eric and I have gotten to chat. It's it's good to see you, bro. You have been all over the freaking world recently, I think. I mean, it sure seems like it. You'll be texting me or calling me from the airport, um, calling me from your rental car. You're just going all over the place. The federal government bosses you around a little bit, huh?
Oh yeah, I've been on the road a lot, man. Absolutely. It's really good to be home. That is part of my job sometimes, but this year it's been exorbitantly more travel. So I'm looking forward to some normalcy, however you want to enunciate that, um, towards the fall, you know.
Well,
Yeah,
bro, we need to nail down a time for me to take a road trip to hang out with a few days with you too.
absolutely. And we kind of hit on this, just on texting. It's really screwed up and limited me on how many classes I could schedule, for
Yeah,
my own classes here locally. So, but I'm rectifying that for some from August and September dates, which we'll soon announce.
yeah, awesome. Well, as you and I are both through text again, both of us are planning to go to the range this afternoon after we get done recording here.
Oh yeah, looking
But
forward to it.
oh yeah, now on, I did want to bring up something that is a shame about my former range, and that is United States Shooting Academy. Now, the only reason why I'm going into this is definitely public record. Now, it sounds more serious than it is, but there was some total bullshit that went down at the Oklahoma State IDPA match a few weeks ago, and I just that place is one of the best facilities now, at least for how many private bays they have. From great places to teach, great. They've got a place where they can do clearing classes, and out to 300 yards on one of the ranges, and just I think they've got 20 individual bays, and you
Sounds
basically
about right.
before you would go there and you wouldn't have to wait one bit. You would just walk in and sign up and then go have your own bay, and that wasn't ever really a problem. But dude, some good news is that when the when the whole firearms boom and ammo boom of the last, when COVID and the riots were occurring, the walk-in business for USSA quadrupled, and it never changed. Now, so recently, they informed all members that they were going to end memberships, that you would have to pay $25 each time you came in and were limited to 2 hours, where it was a year membership unlimited, and you never got told how long you could shoot.
And what was the cost of the yearly membership, Aaron?
Bro, it seems like it was only about 280, $300 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. I'm an accountant for a living, but I try not to be an accountant when I leave the office. So I might have to ask my wife. But and in addition to ending memberships, they decided they would kick out all the competitions that were there. And so I'm gonna fast forward to the final match, IDPA match that they were gonna hold. There was this Oklahoma State match. So of course, if anyone familiar with the way state and regional competitions go for USPSA and IDPA, people come from all over the country to go to them. Just isn't Oklahoma shooters,
Right.
but from the very beginning, the staff was riding around on their. Now, let me be very clear. I have good friends that witnessed all this, and some of my good friends that I shoot with at competition. It's been a while, unfortunately. Shout out to Sam now and Lee. Pardon me, Sam and Lee. How's it going, guys? And they are some of the ones that witnessed this stuff. That basically, from the very beginning of the match, staff was riding around on their four wheelers and stuff, essentially harassing everybody and looking for anything that they could call some competitor out, or just again going around bullying everybody. And at one point the during the awards ceremony, the owner's son came up and was throwing his weight around and saying he could do whatever he wanted because it was his dad's range. And bro, he ended up kicking the match director out of the off the range during the awards.
For what reason?
I don't know. They got into some argument. I'm sure it was something that started with some harassment, or maybe it came up about one of the previous incidences throughout the day. But I'll tell you, I'm. It just wasn't. I already said I wouldn't go back to that place. Now I really won't go back to that place. That place has given the middle finger to people that really want to train, to competitors, and I'm glad for walk-in business. I'm glad for new shooters that are showing up to a place to shoot, but to turn your back on people that have been shooting there once a week for 8 years. It's BS, man.
Well, Aaron, I'm just thinking through the math. Do you know how many? Do you know how many members they allow each year?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And I'm just thinking through it. It seems to me like daily shooters, paying $25 is not likely. Those individuals, they're highly unlikely to show up. 300 or so dollars worth of business a year.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking through your average person that goes to the range.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to have some of the numbers and crunch them, since again, that's what I do for a living.
Well,
But
so here's my other thought, Aaron. You hit it on the head. There's all those bays.
yeah,
There's a bunch of bays. You and I have spent a lot of time out at that range, taking classes, shooting together. I'm amazed that they wouldn't at least consider, hey, we're going to still maintain sections that are for private members only, and open these other sections for walk-in business. I mean, I guess I understand, as a business model, it would probably be a good idea to have some walk-in business. I get that piece, but what I think is most detrimental from a situation like this is, man, when you treat IDPA, USPSA competitors, when you treat loyal yearly members that way, man, to me, I think that's just simply shooting yourself in the foot business wise too. Or maybe there's enough walk-in business that don't care about those things. I don't know. But at a minimum, it completely tarnishes their reputation. And especially with those individuals I was speaking of, are some of the most ardent Second Amendment supporters, and supporters, of course, of liberty and whatnot. I just find that baffling.
yeah. I mean, they must plan on a crap ton of walk-in business. And you can't do all that stuff, make those kinds of changes, and again, give a middle finger to hundreds of shooters that are pretty darn serious about competition and showing up, weekly, you know, every few days, etc., to go to a walk-in business like that. I mean, it really it just seems like they're going to lose quite a bit of business from that. And I didn't intend to talk about this long, but it I just felt like I had to say something because it's been talked about a lot. There were some on their review site. There were some people from out of state that said they loved the match but couldn't believe the stuff that happened
Well,
with
what I would
management.
say, and we're not, I just think, listeners of this show, just spend your money wisely. That's all I'll say.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be adversarial like them. That's all I'm going to say.
yeah.
Choose your, spend your money wisely.
Amen. I think that's a mic drop, bro.
Well, cool. Well, Aaron, so I want to, start at least each show up until this event. I, just want to continue to push and talk about the upcoming combative summit. That's 20 through 22 September of this year, 2024. And, of course, the audience has heard ad nauseum our discussions about the combative summit last year that I attended. It was amazing. And I, say this all the time. If you're familiar with TACCon, and a majority of our listeners are, it's an amazing event. TACCon is, just world class training, one of the coolest, if not most important self defense, self protection / tactical events, of the year of any of its type. I I would say that the combative summit is this equal to that, and there's only been one event, right? That's how awesome of an event that John Valentine and his team put on there. But it's in the combative realm. Of course, it includes weapons, but it's in the plugging in of blue guns and training blades in a combatives environment. Of course, it's way more than that. But the point I would say that is the comparison. It's compared to TACCon. So I'm just going to read real quick, kind of the statement and pardon me, I digress a second. And this is going to be in D'Iberville, Mississippi. I believe that I'm pronouncing that right. Now, so this is kind of the mission statement. The Combatives Association Summit is a gathering of combatives experts, instructors, and enthusiasts from around the world. The summit is organized by the Combatives Association, an organization dedicated to promoting and advancing the field of combatives. Combatives is a term used to describe a set of close quarters combat techniques and tactics, including hand-to-hand combat, grappling, and weapons-based entangled fighting. The Combatives Association Summit provides a platform for participants to learn from some of the world's most experienced and knowledgeable combatives instructors. And just reading from the website, of course, this is a bulk of the individuals that were there last year. And I spoke with John a little bit earlier via text and asked him, is it pretty much the same panelist? And he said yes, for the most part. So there might be some changes. So I'm just going to read a few of them. Of course, there was Craig Douglas of ShivWorks, Matt Larson, the founder of, or the father of modern combatives as he's known, Cecil Birch of Immediate Action Combatives, Cole Miller of Soul Force Combatives, former UFC fighter, Cliff Byerly. Shout out to Cliff, one of our favorite
Yeah.
dudes out there. Hill Country Combatives. We need to have him on the show again soon.
Oh man, yeah.
Ben Albin of Red Beard Combatives, another amazing instructor. I really respect him a lot. Saw some of his classes. Didn't get to participate in them. That's just the way it shook out. Of course, John Valentine, who's running the event. Of course, he taught last year and is teaching in this one as well, of Deeds of Arms. Aaron Giannetti, Knife Control Concepts. Man, some of my favorite stuff out there right now is working under Aaron. Nick Delgadillo of Starting Strength. Incidentally, we'll be
Yeah,
talking a
Nick.
little bit. Nick's a great guy. Again, texting with him earlier on some subjects. Fletch Fuller, Ready Up Tactical. Chet Palumbo. Of course, he's a lawyer. Call him the combat lawyer. Real nice guy. Very, very knowledgeable on all things legal. Sam Ferguson of Gallo Combatives. Jerry Wetzel, Red Zone Threat Management. Shout out to Jerry.
Oh yeah, Jerry.
Awesome. So,
Fun
man,
guy.
yeah. So those are the primary uh, panelists that are going to be there. Again, those names may change. Some may be added, some may take away, but for the most part, those folks are going to be there again. Folks out there, if you didn't get to attend last year, I am telling you, you have to get in this if you can. Of course, we're going to put the website in the show notes, but you can go to combativesummit.com and find all the information and register. So get out there and support that. I promise you, folks, it will be an event you will always remember. Memories for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So shout out to John Valentine for putting that together again. Yeah, so I guess that does it for some announcements. Aaron, I think another thing we need to make sure that we're telling folks to make sure that they go out and share our podcast with anybody they know that they care about. We say this time and time again, it's not about us. It's about our guests and our mentors, that we have on this show. We believe we have very, very important, if not life-saving information on this show. So go out there and share it. And also, if you can rate us on iTunes, you can also rate us on Spotify. Spotify is another one you can rate us. I've been seeing some ratings over there, so that's helping us. So, and show, what's the other one, Aaron? Is it show notes?
Listen notes.
Listen notes, pardon me, misspoke. Listen notes, you can rate us over there. It helps with the algorithms. And lastly, go out and compared to our audio downloads, our YouTube listener or viewership is real small. It's growing, but I've been talking about this. I've been playing with some AI this afternoon, Aaron, that I think is gonna help me split some of that video up a lot more, a lot easier for one, time wise, and be able to load up some shorter content for folks that aren't just interested in, watching, hour and a half interviews, that they can, see snippets, kind of what Joe Rogan does,
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that said, Aaron, you want to talk a little bit of gear now? You didn't have any gear you were going to discuss today, right?
Oh, I was just going to say this. We talked about this on a few episodes ago. I, got my new Subaru BRZ a couple months ago.
That's right.
And I was working on replacing the stereo. And after getting it all installed, my subs started cutting out, in and out. And it was obviously some thermal issue, because it would work just fine for about 25 or 30 minutes. So finally, I'm not going to mention their name, but the company I got most of my gear from was an okay company. But I wish I would have made a different choice, because getting the warranty stuff worked out with them, dude, it's like, how could places run their business like they did, and how they handled my warranty? Number one, their amp messed up. Then they made 3 or 4 mistakes trying to do my warranty stuff. It was wild. Okay, but so now it's working. Thank God, and it sounds kick ass too.
Awesome.
I've just been kind of obsessing over the EQ.
Oh, I bet you are, or have been.
There's been a couple times already that I've just gone, okay, pull over to the side of the road, put all the EQ all flat, and just start from there. And and that's one thing sometimes people think is they think in terms of boosting frequencies, right? Well, some of the best way you can get EQ to work is actually just attenuating some of the frequencies you don't want to hear. So,
Well, that
and
sounds awesome. Of course, our audience, most of them know we're musicians. And again, we always say that Miyamoto Musashi pushed pure art as a way to increase the not just livelihood, but and or the life, and enjoyment of the
amen,
martial artist. So,
amen.
so again, music to us is one of those. And speaking of which, I'll say this before I jump into this book I was going to discuss. Is Aaron, I don't know if I told you or not, but I love my wife dearly, but there are certain things when I'm playing my drums a lot that just kind of get no, if I'm playing a lot of fast stuff, because I laugh at myself. You know, we're, we're 50 years old, but man, we still like some of our older music, and some of
Oh
it's a
yeah,
little faster, Pantera, Metallica, stuff like that.
double kick stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's double bass. She'll send me a text of her going like this. Of course, she's just messing with me. But
Yeah.
so it's like learning that stuff is valuable to me, and it's hard too,
Hmm.
But I came to the conclusion that sometimes, man, I just need to play more difficult stuff that doesn't have a lot of double bass and a lot of really fast drumming. So man, I'm like back to learning a lot of Tool stuff. Danny Carey, man, is a genius, and he's a monster on the kit. And I don't think that a lot of people realize how difficult some of the stuff that he plays and that he writes for those songs. And so, man, I made the decision. I'm going to start learning a lot of the Tool stuff that I never learned.
Cool.
Because a lot of it, man, is actually you got to read some of the music, to understand. Like the main song I'm working on right now, off Fear Inoculum. Boy, if I'm saying that wrong, I'm gonna kick myself in the rear. But this song's called Numa. And I don't know if you've heard that song or not, Aaron, but it's absolutely true polyrhythmic. So I mean, the drumming, you can sit there and listen to the verses, and you just think it's kind of this, syncopated, kind of trying to roll with the vocals. But Aaron, it changes time signatures. So,
Hmm.
it's like and depending on how you count it, I don't want to bore the listeners,
Yeah.
but it's in and out of like three different time signatures, and it rolls in a pattern, but
Hmm.
figuring out that pattern is difficult. But anyway, I thought you might like to hear I've been working on some new stuff, and there's also some really cool fills in there too. But
Cool.
audiences out there, okay, hey, let's talk some gun stuff or combatives or fitness stuff. So yeah, Aaron. So we're talking gear. So I was listening to, speaking of Nick Delgadillo, is I like to catch the Starting Strength podcast with with Mark Ripito, and of course Nick and his buddies are speaking a lot more on that show too. And so I kept hearing them talk about this book called The Barbell Prescription. And
Mm.
what's cool, and you can see it's strength training for life after 40,
Oh,
right?
cool.
And it's written by Jonathan M. Sullivan and Andy Baker. And I verified with Nick before we went on the air, because you look at it and it appears that it's produced by Starting Strength, and at first I wasn't sure, but it absolutely is.
Oh,
So
cool.
the coaches that wrote this are Starting Strength coaches, and of course Starting Strength actually produced the book, or published it, I should say, is more accurate. But yeah, as the audience members know, and Aaron, as for many years I had some kinesiophobia about lifting heavier,
Hmm.
because I had that real bad back injury. And I knew better. But I listen to some of the doctors saying, you need to be careful how much compression you're putting on your spine, this, that, and the other. But I noticed that I kept getting injured more and more, a lot more than before when I was, lifting heavier, lifting for strength. So anyway, I started a barbell training program again. I'm like, screw it, man. I'm starting with the bar, and I'm rehabbing my back through barbell training. And so this book kind of came at a good time. And I'm just going to read. I put a few notes on here instead of jumping, straight into the book. But, it even has some sections on bioenergetics, which, has to do with the way that your body produces energy. Of course, your mitochondria and how that's done in the Krebs cycle via glucose and beta oxidation. Excuse me, oxidation cycle using fat, and producing of ATP, or as it's known, adenosine triphosphate. So it has a neat primer in that. It has a brief overview on the squat, deadlift, press, bench press, power cleans, and snatch, but noting that it doesn't go into heavy details in those because it's a companion book with this one here, which is our starting strength book. So, if you decide to go out, and I do recommend this book highly, especially if you're, 40 or older, go ahead and buy both of them, and again, I'm going to put the link in the show notes. But Aaron, furthermore, this goes into, of course, programming, and it kind of, I don't want to get overly descriptive because I want folks to go out there and buy it, and I don't want to bore people. But it goes through the different age groups, what are broken down to the master, novice, master, intermediate, and advanced. Which I'll take note that it does talk about the advanced master, which means the advanced older lifter, that a lot of older lifters likely will not get to that stage because, frankly, the advanced master is somebody's competing, is the way that they describe in here. Goes heavily into recovery. And, as we get older, this is another thing that kind of, if you will, gave me the green light to feel okay about having more recovery days. Because sometimes you think you got to just go, and think that you should be able to keep up with the younger folks. But, frankly, that's not always the case. So, one of the things that I've been doing, I'm still lifting 3 times a week, but maybe it ends up being 2.5, because sometimes I'm going 2 days between, if not sometimes 3 days between a workout, just partly depending on how I feel and how it falls on, my lifestyle, still trying to get to jujitsu, all those things as well. But with that said, Aaron, I can real quickly kind of give some folks an idea. So let me get to this. So this is a master novice. And so a normal progression for what's called a well-executed novice progression, which can be, young people, frankly, this can work for older people too, but again, with the considerations of recovery and whatnot. But your typical workouts in the novice is going to start, with squat, and most of the repetitions are 5 repetitions by 3. Now, you're still going to have warm-up sets. You might have quite a bit of warm-up sets, but you're doing squat, bench, deadlift. And for instance, week 1 of a beginning novice is going to, this is just suggestions. Squat might start at 75 pounds, bench at 90, deadlift at 95. But by week 10, their squat is at 260, their press at 102, And let me see if I can find. So your bench 140. Where am I at on here? Squat 255. I just said 260. Where's the deadlift? Okay, 275. I'm sorry, Aaron. I tried to say that a little smoother, but so you start fairly light, and within 10 weeks, man, you're deadlifting 275 and squatting 260.
Wow.
So again, that's how fast. I mean, you're putting on in the novice program, you're adding 10 pounds every single workout to each one of those lifts, if not more sometimes,
Yeah.
especially with deadlift. You might
Well,
be.
hey, let's put in the caveat here that anyone listening to this thinking about a workout program, we are not doctors. Make sure you are healthy enough for this type of workout, and check with your doctor before you start something like this.
Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that. Good reminder. Yeah, because if you're not certain, any kind of exercise, if you've got any underlining, medical issues, you need to make sure that you're okay to do that. So, and then Aaron, quickly, and we can kind of move on to my next piece of gear. So this is a well executed master's novice progression. And for squat, it starts with 45 pounds, the bar, right? Bench at 85, deadlift at 95. And then 7 weeks later, now the squat's at 175, bench is at 122, squat at 185, so on and so forth, Aaron. So, but still yet the older person starting with the bar in 7 weeks is lifting a decent amount of weight. So, again, that's not heavy for folks that have been lifting. And frankly, for myself, Aaron, like I said, I started with the bar, and I'm right around a third of what my PRs were when I was younger. And I'm not worried about making those same PRs I did when I was younger, but I just care about not getting injured anymore.
Yeah.
you know? So I think that kind of covers the book well enough. But
Good.
yeah, folks, get out there and grab this book, especially if you're trying to get strong as a more seasoned person. I think you will do well by having this book. These two books, we kind of say stuff like this all the time, but we love reductionism. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily reductionist. What I'm saying is, somebody in trying to get stronger and healthier and injury free, or minimize injury, man, these two books, man, it's tough to beat, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Well, cool. So here's another piece of gear, and then I'm going to turn it over to you for a subject. So I'm going to tell a little story here. So, Aaron, you and I are pretty much buy once, cry once, folks, right?
We usually
It,
are for sure.
usually are, right? And in most cases, that's what we go by because it's a sound philosophy. Well, Aaron, I'm not going to sit here and BS. This year's going to be kind of a tight year for my wife and I for
Yeah.
one main reason. We just had our tenant up in New York give us notice, which is it's a blessing in disguise, right? It's time to sell that home. It's been that way for a while. We just put a roof on it, so that's something we got out of the way. But until we sell this home, bro, we're paying two mortgages.
Yeah.
so so and we can handle it. It's just not we're not going to be putting as much in savings. And you know my wife and I, we like to go on dates, to a couple of spots we like here. We're just going to do a lot less of that, and tighten it up a little bit. But that was one of the other challenges. You go out and spend quite a bit of money on a belt. And frankly, Aaron, I went online looking for, okay, what are the best belts, goodness, that you can get for, say around $100 or below.
Mm-hmm.
And incidentally, I found a lot of really, really good belts out there on review that met that criteria. But man, would you believe every single one of them I go to, and man, they're sold out.
Huh.
Probably because some of these reviews. So what I ended up going with is this Rogue Echo belt, and it's a 10 millimeter. And again, this, I'm not at all saying this is the greatest belt, but man, it certainly is sturdy. And we'll see. I'm going to give a report after I've used this, probably about a year, maybe a little more. But man, I used it for my workout yesterday, and I thought it worked great. And here's one thing that I will say: I've used a Velcro belt, and some of my folks, and especially like Nick and some folks that listen to us that do this a lot more, probably go, man, unless it's a certain type. But I will tell you, nothing scarier than when you're under a heavy load, back in the day, because this has happened to me with a Velcro belt, and you get underneath those squats and the belt opens up and comes off because, it kind of mentally screws with you, and or can, more importantly, be a problem with the support to your back and your core. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this belt. It's got, fairly close holes that'll give pretty decent increment, and, to keep it, as tight as you can get it, which is important. But anyway, I'm pretty pumped about it. But this only costs $55, so
Oh
we'll
wow.
see how well it holds up. And Nick or any of you
What,
guys
what
out there,
model did what model
it,
did you
it
say it
it's
was?
it's called an Echo belt, which by and large, when Rogue puts that title on there, it's usually a budget item. But I also find interesting there. You've heard me talk about my Echo bike that I got
Hmm.
from Rogue,
Yeah.
but that's their top of the line, air bike.
Yeah.
So sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean it's budget, but in this case, it is. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm pretty pumped about it. It's just nice to have gear, man, that supports the effort that you're putting forth. And so I was pretty pumped about it.
When did you get it?
So I just got back Friday, and it was sitting there waiting for me.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was looking forward to using it for my workout. So it is pretty cool.
Good deal.
Well, Aaron, what you got, man?
Well, so let's kind of move forward to, we mentioned earlier that we were both going to hit the range this afternoon. So, before I go into this, I've got a class coming up next weekend that I'm teaching, an 8-hour class. And before I talk about that for a minute, I just wanted to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, which is Training Ground. That is the jiu-jitsu gym that I go to. It is owned by Mr. Matt Reyna, who is an amazing jiu-jitsu coach, an amazing humble person, and that training ground that includes my firearm instruction, and they are the ones that host my classes at their range. Actually, he's gracefully named it the EvoSec range, so that's kind of fun. That's where I'm going to head to here in about an hour. But so just wanted to give a shout out to them because him and Krista are really, really, really supportive over what we do, the people that we bring into town. Just a great group of people. And if you want to get into jiu-jitsu, or they have a form of karate that they teach, and just other things. They've got wrestling coaches, and of course firearms. You need to check them out, and their website is thetrainingground.life.
And Aaron, if I could add that, Matt and Krista, they're darn good practitioners themselves.
Oh
Of
yeah.
course, Matt being a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and of course Krista is killing it on the mats as well. And they both are serious about the path,
Yep.
firearms, and they're serious about that training as well. So yeah, they're absolutely on the path. Shout out to them.
Well, so since I have that class next weekend, it is there's probably some slots open by the time this still by the time this show airs. But yes, on June 1st, I've got our defensive pistol 2 class, and this is a follow up to our defensive pistol 1 class I taught a few months ago. So a lot of the students that were in that class are taking this class, and it's an 8-hour class. It's going to be intermediate shooting techniques. Of course, I can scale it to the class. If I've got some people shooting really well, we'll kick it up a notch, or vice versa, right? I want
Know
everybody
the
to,
audience. Yep.
yeah, I want everybody to learn and be safe, and most of all, have some fun. Now, so I am going to. I've got some fun ideas for some drills for the end of the class. So I'm going to go out there and do a little bit of practicing on that, because there's some drills I'm going to weave in and out and shoot this stuff with these students for fun, and again, put myself on the line in front of everybody too.
Which I'll add, it amps the stress up a little bit. You
Yeah.
know, when you're demoing, it can, not all the time, but in some cases, especially if it's something new you've been working into the curriculum, it can ramp the stress a little.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the points. Some of this stuff that I'm going to work with them on, I haven't shot in a while, so I'm going to knock the rust off myself. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It is such a blessing having that range and rolling out courses there. I'm thankful, Eric. I've been teaching a lot of privates lately, and as it is right now, I'm having a an open enrollment class about every few weeks.
That's awesome, man.
And
Real proud of you.
thank you. And I think I'm going to focus on, and we've both talked about this, focusing on 4-hour slices. So my next class after that, which is June 22nd, is going to be a class about platform, which will be your stance and your grip. And then the following class I'm going to have will be about drawing from concealment and concealment concepts. So I'm looking forward to having those, and 4 hours is less time to commit. It's less ammo. I think that it's a good way to go. I mean, of course, lots of people have heard of Carl Wren.
You beat me to it.
Um, Shout out to him. We're honored that he enjoys listening to our show, and he has really, I believe, one of the people that kind of revolutionized, especially at such a high level performer as he is an instructor, doing 4-hour slices. And I think, man, I think I'm going to keep the 8 hour and 16-hour classes kind of low right now.
Well, and our intent, similar to Carl's, is that our 4-hour blocks can build into the 8,
Mm-hmm.
build into the 16, and of course, it depends on what class it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right
What?
now, you know, right now our 16-hour class that we've been doing to this point has been the full, both live fire 8-hour added to the combatives
Mm-hmm.
class. So
Which I can't wait to teach that class with you again.
yeah, it's time. It's
Well,
time,
and
and
here's a hint, bro. Those 2 4-hour slices are really this 8-hour class coming up. It's those. It's the material split up into two half of the class. Excuse me.
nice.
I can't spit it out.
It sounded
You,
articulate to me, man.
well, you know what I meant.
So,
So,
what are you doing at the range today?
bro, I am going to work transitions and single hand shooting, and I am going to set up a barrier because I'm gonna. I don't want to say because I know some of these students listen to our show. I want them to be surprised with some of these because I'm wanting to give them a give them a glimpse into some competition type stuff.
Cool.
And so I'm going to work on a couple of small stages to introduce them to um, in introducing them to slicing the pie like you would in a competition, things like that. Nothing crazy, but so I'm going to put up a wall and work on some of that stuff. Just have some fun doing target transitions. And speaking of, bro, did you see that video I sent of Mr. Stoger? His transition drill that he was
Oh yeah,
teaching.
absolutely. I thought I commented back
You
to you
did.
on that. Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, where it's two targets closer to you, but a further um, piece of steel and transitioning between those. And man, he's got some brilliant stuff he puts out for free.
Absolutely.
You know,
Can't
so
agree more, man. Well, cool. Is that all you got for your focus today, bud?
yep.
Well, cool. Well, I guess I'll give mine. Mine might be a little bit shorter. But Aaron, basically, the last time I went to the range before I went on this trip, but incidentally, I'm sitting here thinking through it. When I came back, for that day just to see Jana, I went out and freaking executed a real fast training session, just some accuracy work and a few small, bill drills and whatnot. But the previous range trip, I was doing a lot of work. I say a lot. I shot it about 3 times, and I saw Kyle DeFore put out uh, a drill he calls the 5, 10, 15, and 20, which you know it simply is 5 round bills at each one of those ranges.
Hmm.
So
That's cool.
yeah, and I mean, not a heavy round count. But frankly, man, going from 5 all the way out to 20, your what you need to see and the way you press the trigger is going to change a little bit, you know, and how long you take to confirm, that accurate shot at the further distance.
So,
So
bro,
that
can you explain, just in a nutshell, how that works? Is it you do a string, just walk five? You said 5, 10,
10,
50.
yep,
Yeah.
15 and 20, and just 5 rounds, from concealment at each range. And he uses hit factor
Hmm.
scoring. And so, and I think what he said was a hit factor of 8 or 7 or better
Hmm.
is what I believe he is saying. So, excuse me. And so that's a really good informative drill, fairly low round count. So I'm going to work on that again today. And also the last time I went out, Aaron, as I did the 50-yard Ohio rifle qualification that, we talked about on this show some time ago. I learned about that from Claude Werner, and I just wanted kind of you know, a, not too high round. I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me right now exactly how many rounds it is, but I think this might even be right here. And anyway, Aaron, it doesn't matter right this second. But bottom line is that's just a easy to execute 50 yards and in carbine, effectively a drill in this case. And I didn't focus on what I had said the last time, shooting in at half the par time in each one of them, because
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to get super aggressive that session. But today I'm going to do it both. I'm going to focus on being well under the normal prescribed par times and shoot it 100% accurate. And then also I'm gonna burn it on the half, halving the par times. I'm gonna do that one as well. So that's gonna be my focus today. And before that, I'm gonna do some skip loading. I think I have that Lee Weems. If I get that wrong, I think I've discussed that with him before. But what I'm calling skip loading, and that comes from another trainer, and I'm gonna mess that up. I should have been prepared. Lee can correct me, and I'll be able to pull the name and put it in the show notes. But essentially, man, working on B8 bulls, and unlike the ball and dummy, Aaron, is that I've got like, I'm randomly loading magazines. I'm kind of sometimes I'm just closing my eyes and I
Mm-hmm.
forget. I forget which ones.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with when I'm loading my magazines like that. And so I've got a good, you know, 5 to 8, dummy rounds mixed in with live rounds. And that's really helping me overcome being impatient when I'm shooting precision. Because you might agree, I've talked about this before. Even when I made masterclass in IDPA back in the day, man, I couldn't shoot the best groups,
Yeah.
and I'm still working on that. So, and part of it's my patience, really being patient. Of course, there's the other aspects of, just simply not moving the damn gun, you know.
Eric,
So,
it's
mhm,
funny that you bring that up because I had a real nice time. My 15-year-old son Graham went to the range with me last. I think it was Friday night, not this Friday, but a couple, week and a half ago. But he and I did some dummy and ball.
cool,
And tell you what, man, that is hard when
very
you don't
hard.
do it. It you know, I can sit here and dry fire, near perfect, relaxed trigger presses. Get out there with live ammo in there and just anticipate that, and push against that
Yep,
recoil.
yep.
Now, Eric, so this brings up another thing. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I've heard Rob Latham, I believe, say that I mean that the flinch reflex is okay, and then it's not. Have you heard that? Am I getting my wires crossed on that?
So I won't be able to articulate it perfectly, but I've heard some high level, especially competitive shooters, say, because the way I've heard it explained is that it's, timing and trying to bring the pistol back down out of recoil.
Yeah,
Now, but if you talk about, if you look at what the doubles drill is intended to do, however, from Ben Steger, is it's intended for you to learn how not to put input into the gun.
yeah,
So there's ultimately some efforts, subconsciously of you trying to, you know, correcting the any aiming errors during the shooting process. But the point being is to minimize
yeah.
how much you do that, because you absolutely can start adding way too much input into the gun, and there your shot groups, open up vastly.
Hmm.
I know when I'm shooting, trying to get my bill drills fast, you bear down and trying to shoot the bills, bill drills as fast and accurate as possible. Then it comes apart when you realize you're putting too much input into it. So that's my thought on it. Is there is an aspect of, timing a gun and trying to get it back out of recoil, but there's also the balance in that, minimizing the input. So
Well,
I
bro,
think,
you're
yeah, go ahead.
reminding me to. I I've got a piece of 10-inch steel that I'll run out to 25 to 45 yards with the pistol, and I'm decent at it. Especially 25. That's really no problem. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back there to 25 today and do some dummy and ball.
Well, interesting you bring that up, Aaron, because my steel is it's like a little BC zone
Hmm.
steel, and yeah, at 25, it's easy to hit that, in my opinion. But what makes that valuable is not having to walk back and forth to check your B8 bull.
Yeah, yeah,
So I agree with you. That's when I'm doing that, I'm just trying to, hit 100% accuracy on that BC still. That's why, like you mentioned, going out to that 40 or 50, because there's a section of the bay that I typically, well, all of them, that I can get back to 50 and be just fine, because it's like right before the road. So
yeah,
yeah, that's how you add a smaller target to it, right? It's
yeah.
walking out there like you were talking about. Yep, and then you have to keep walking back and forth.
Yeah, because even with my bionic vision, I still can't see really my hits on a B8. So
Yeah.
at 25.
Well, cool, man. I think that does it for talking about our shooting focus. Do you got something else, Aaron? And I can go into the influencing kids with books.
Yeah, let's hit that, bro.
Okay. So, I told you this, I think in text a little bit earlier today, that, I've been having some discussions with a few friends and colleagues, and, we just observe what's going on in society these days, not just with, influencing kids politically, but also influencing them, with their devices, being stuck on their devices all the time. We know that there is this revolution in fitness, right? But there's also a devolving as well. And wouldn't you agree, Aaron? I mean, there's a lot of fit people out there. It's very popular, but we've got an increase in, especially kids. I'm not trying to be rude, Aaron, but I see a lot of overweight kids these days, which doesn't make sense to me. You know, and I know it happens. Some kids are, they have certain genetics, but let's face it, a lot of this is because kids aren't outside playing much anymore, and getting exercise. And so I was sitting there wanting to kind of remind people that if you have kids, either your own kids especially, but I think most of our audience members, you know, are influencing their kids positively when it comes to what we're talking about. But folks out there might also have kids, nephews, nieces, friends of the family, kids that might need a little help and influence. And man, Aaron, I think one of the coolest books that can help kids in an awesome way. We've talked about this before. Jocko's book, The Way of the Warrior Kid.
Oh yeah, that's a fun book.
It's,
I loved reading that with my boys.
yeah, I think I need to zip through it again myself. And it's just so much value in here, which, you know, you think about, kids reading about a young boy that's, he's wimpy, can't do push-ups, can't do even a single pull-up. He's scared to jump off, a high, I forget if it what he was jumping from.
I think it was
But
a bridge.
yeah, it was a bridge, jumping from a bridge, being brave, doing
Hmm.
hard things, as we talk about, dealing with a bully. So he, you know, I'll digress a second, but ultimately how cool it is that his uncle comes home for the summer, a veteran Navy SEAL, of course, built around Jocko. And how cool that will be for a kid to have an uncle that's a SEAL, that whole summer he's getting him up early and doing PT and learning jujitsu and facing
Legit, man.
fears.
Yeah, you get me excited about that book. Now, I mean, I hadn't thought about it in a long time. This bringing back some. I mean, I really did enjoy reading that book.
Yeah, and again, it really boils down to what I'm talking about. You can gift this to any kid and
Yeah,
I really recommend that folks do that. And I wasn't prepared to read this, but I think I can articulate it fairly well. And the impact of this particular kid's book. And Aaron, I think you've probably heard it, and I'll try to find it and put it in the show notes. But and it pumps me up. Kind of makes me emotional thinking about the effect of certain books like this on people. But Jocko reads a letter of an individual that talks about he's been an alcoholic for years and years, and how he read a book, a Jocko Willink book that made him think, you know what, I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm not gonna drink tonight. I'm gonna get up and go work out in the morning. And this individual says, hey, I did it today. Let's do it tomorrow.
yeah.
And over again. Next thing he knows, this gentleman, has lost. I can't remember how it was, 50 or 100 pounds. I think it was more
Wow,
like 100 pounds.
wow.
And then he reads this letter from this individual, and at the very end, that gentleman said, the book I read was A Way of the Warrior Kid.
Oh man,
So that's pretty cool. Kind
bro.
of pumps me up.
Wow. Yeah, I'll be honest, man. That is makes me feel like I got some allergens in here or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, it just pumps me up, man. So,
My eyes are itching and
but
watery or
I'll
something.
try to put that
That's cool,
in the
man.
show.
That's
And
cool.
had you not heard that, Aaron?
I had not. That literally took me by surprise, and it's like a little bit of choke up there.
Let me
That's
write
cool.
a note to send that video to you. Yeah, bro, it'll choke you up. I'll send that video to you, and I'll put that video in the show notes so people can see that. And I
And
just think it's important. Go ahead, Aaron.
I was going to say this because I read that book with my boys. I don't know if that was something that influenced them to do what they do now. But Eric, as you know, man, I don't want to be braggadocious, but dude, my boys are freaking
Brag
beasts
away.
in the dude. They're beasts in the
Yeah,
gym.
yeah, they're strong, man. I wish that number one, I or we, because that was not near a popular thing for kids to do on the average, other than
Hmm.
being football players. And man, I wish that we knew what we know now, and have the freaking gym that I have outside now, or outside in my garage, or the gym that you have at your house. You can imagine how much stronger we would have
Well,
been growing up.
and it's neat to my youngest son, both my right normal sibling stuff, which you and I never really fought because we've always been best friends.
Yep.
That's one blessing of being a twin. We had some arguments here and there, but that was very
Oh
rare.
yeah. It was very, very rare. Yep.
But that being younger, they didn't really get along. But do the last year or so, I see them boys getting home from the gym together, cutting
That's
up,
awesome. That's
and
awesome. Makes me
and
happy.
both sitting there getting their protein drinks and get some calories in to bulk. Being in a
Cool.
bulk stage.
That pumps
And
me up too, man.
and Graham just signed up for wrestling last week.
Yeah, hell yeah. I saw when you text me that. Tell him I am pumped and I'm proud of him. You know, I'm excuse me, going to go out on a limb and say I love jujitsu overall. As what I think people should do most throughout their life. But for young men and girls, young boys and girls, I don't think there's a better activity than wrestling.
Yeah, man, it's going to be intense, man. He's going right into summer, and they're going to start the summer right away, kicking these kids' butts, man.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
bro.
awesome. But
Hey,
of course,
um,
wrestling's a fall sport.
so let's see
So
here. In a week and a half, um, 3 practices a week, and then he's got a a couple week long kind of like seminars too.
that's
So
cool, man. What school, Aaron?
he is at Bixby,
Okay.
which um, a- as far as I know, so they're a 6A school, so pretty big,
Yep. Oh
and
yeah, 6A's big.
and apparently people are going to make fun of me. I'm a nerdy accountant guitar player here. I'm a band geek, so but I'm pretty sure they were the state champions in football, and they've got a pretty serious competitive group of boys in wrestling. At least the boys that I'm aware of. I haven't heard about the girls, but
Yeah, Oklahoma's got awesome wrestling programs.
bro, do not road rage or mouth off to some dude in a bar. They might end up being a freaking ex high school Oklahoma wrestler. You might get yourself hurt.
It's like what did Craig used to say, or he said on occasion about you know um picking a fight with a Iowa wrestler, but just might get slammed into the vending machine. We don't condone uh, ego fights.
No.
It's dumb. But when it's time to defend yourself and take care of business, it's time to take care of business.
Hmm.
So, well, cool, Aaron. I think that we can start to close out the show. But since we're talking about good reminders, we're advocates of just hearing stuff on a regular basis, reminders, mental cues of how important some of this stuff may be. And one of the most important is knowing what you should say if you have to defend yourself when you call 911. Aaron, you'd agree. Our mentors say, let's say Andrew Bronca, especially, says it all the time. Of course, any lawyer that's worth their salt's going to tell you that.
Andrew Bronco or Masada Ayub
Yeah.
have pretty much the same prescriptions,
Yeah.
from what I recall.
So the main thing is you, if you, after you defend yourself, man, you got to get on 911 because, you know, if a victim of your self defense victim, that's not the right word. If a perpetrator calls 911 before you do, that's going to be a little difficult in your defense.
Because
Not to
if
say
it is like you may have slipped there and said victim, but the problem is if they beat you to it, they may be considered the victim.
that's a very good point, Aaron. Thank you for pointing that out. So Aaron, and I got this card that I keep in my wallet, you know, and frankly, Aaron, I can articulate this off the cuff, but I'm purposely reading from this because it's a reminder lesson, right? So, and this is what I subscribe to is what Andrew Bronca suggests is probably best is the say little approach, because you can say nothing whatsoever, which that's way better than blabbering off and saying shit that can get you in legal jeopardy
Hmm.
or worse, put in jail when you were completely justified. But the say little can absolutely, what he articulates, can help you in your defense. And so you've got you got three phases. You've got the 911 call, you got the first responders, the police that show up, and then you have the investigators. And you got to treat all three slightly different. And so in the 911 call, you're going to simply state your name, say your location, and then you'll say a fairly, taped statement, if you will, press and play, is I was attacked. I was in fear of my life. I had to defend myself. And then at that point, you want to request police and an ambulance right away, right? So that's all you're going to say to 911 at that point. And to responding officers, very, very similar. Same thing. State your name. I was attacked. I was in fear for my life and or your family or a loved one. I had to defend myself. At that point, you identify exculpatory evidence because we know now, based on what we've seen in legal proceedings, and of course taught by, Andrew Bronca, and of course Masadi Ayub, as you said, is that if you don't point out evidence that you are aware of, a knife that's, near a bush, or a gun that's near a bush, or, up in or possibly down in a drainage, a drainage location, in the curb. If the cops don't find it, it's not evidence, right?
Yeah.
So you must point out any evidence that you're aware of, and also point out any witnesses that were there at the time. Because again, same thing. If you don't point out a witness, they may not be part of your defense strategy,
Yeah.
or be a good witness for stating that you did in fact defend yourself. And of course, at that point, again, request medical attention for yourself, and at anybody that you might even be requesting the medical assistance for the person that you defended yourself against too. I'm actually saying it a little screwed up. You should, you want medical attention for everybody on scene, and then to investigators, simply assert that you want to remain silent, and that you want to wait for your lawyer to say anything to investigators, because nothing you can say to investigators at that point can necessarily help you, and again may very well put you in jeopardy. So, but that's what I carry in my wallet. I rehearse that statement fairly often, and I think about scenarios that I could be in, where I'm at. I think about the evidence that's around, because that's a rehearsal. My brain has done it before, right, Aaron?
Well, what I love, Eric, is something that if you've pondered this situation, that there's a certain thing that you don't want to say.
Yep.
And you didn't utter it a single time. So I'm kind of stoked to point this out. When you do now, again, we're not lawyers, but if I have to call 911 and I've had to defend myself, I am not going to say I just shot someone.
Yeah.
You didn't say a damn thing about a gun
Yep.
the whole time, bro.
Yep.
So you were forthright with what needed to be said, but there are just certain things like that. I just shot somebody. Especially that may hop up some responding officers for one thing,
Yep.
but there's multiple reasons why not to say that. But I just love it that you didn't even say that. I wanted to point that out. I would advise it on 911, if I can advise anything right now, not to say I shot somebody.
Awesome point, Aaron.
You just say I had to defend myself. Please send responding officers and medical help.
And Aaron, I want to, point this out because, we want to push our listeners over to Andrew Bronca's website, the Law of Self-Defense. And Aaron, I think I mentioned this not too long ago. Andrew started giving this book for free, giving this out for free. The only thing that he asks is that you pay for the shipping.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, folks out there, if you don't have this book, you need to go out there and do it. And Aaron, again, the reason I thought about this exact discussion and reminder is because when I was on this work trip, I met several people that are huge into firearms and the Second Amendment. But Aaron, when I started talking about this piece and also the cost of defending yourself in court, an average cost of around $200,000. Aaron, there was a couple of these guys, their eyes got big,
I
and
bet.
you could tell they never thought of those things. So again, I think the point being is that, and we've talked about, you know, legal assistance, it's not insurance, but legal assistance programs that we won't get into right now. But, everybody needs to have some form of that, to mitigate not, going broke. So, yeah, Aaron, I think that's all I got for now. And of course, I'll try to put again this link in the show notes as well.
Well, I'll interject that I have been listening to Andrew Bronca's podcast recently. Man, he he does articulate this stuff extremely well, and Eric, just like hearing about self defense concepts, hearing that legal stuff repetitively is are excellent reps.
Yep,
Just like you're
we're
getting in dry fire reps, man. Get some dry fire legal reps in.
absolutely, and it is building mental maps, right?
Yeah,
So, that stuff is deeply important. And let me go back to this book a split second. The reason I mention that is because this card I have here, I wrote this based on the recommendations in this book. So, and if anything else, just understanding that. But I really recommend people do this.
that's
Write
good.
this down in a card and look at it when you think about it, and rehearse it when you think about it, because it could honestly be the one thing that keeps you out of jail.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that
Cool.
I call that a pretty good show, brother. It's funny. We gave ourselves the time limit when we say, "Hey, let's get on and do a quick show." We overshot that pretty far, which is
Yeah, because
because we just have too much fun talking about this stuff. It's all important stuff. It's all fun stuff, and sometimes you and I text more than anything. I think that's just modern technology. So sitting here being able to sometimes doing a podcast with you is the only time I may talk to you uh, in actual voice
yeah,
in the whole week.
yeah, yeah,
And that's not my
totally agree.
fault, by the way.
Oh, really?
I'm just kidding, bro. Well, then let's say good evening to everybody. I'm about to go. I'm literally heading straight to the gun safe and the closet to grab my
Yes,
gear and
sir.
head to lob a few rounds at the Evo Sec range.
Awesome, bro. Enjoy your time at the range. I will as well. I'll give you a report later.
Likewise, buddy. Love you.
All right. Love you too, man. Bye.